Well, let's get into the conversation. As you can see right behind me, we're talking about our political parties and what they are doing in the coming months. They are gearing up for their political party primaries. And we want to discuss what the modalities are, what the specific dates are, which we already know, and what delegates should be looking forward to come those events. We'll be also looking at those who have been sent to the Electoral Commission in recent times. I am talking about the two, Dr. Piahene, together with Hajia Tijani. Now, the NDC has not been particularly happy with those two who have been nominated, who have now become members of the Electoral Commission, so to speak, because those two out of the three are seen to have political affiliations to the New Patriotic Party. Codeo, together with other CSOs, have also gone hard on that matter. Well, we get into these discussions first off with Professor Ransford Jampo, political scientist at the University of Ghana. He hasn't joined us yet, but he will. And we also have Dr. John Osai Kwapong, a CDD fellow. He is here with us and joins us for that conversation. Dr. Kwapong, a very good morning to you.
Good morning to you, Benjamin. How are you?
I'm very well. Where have you been hiding? It's been quite a while.
In plain sight.
Hiding in plain sight. Okay, so it means my bad. I have not been looking for you. I have not been looking for you. Well, but it's good to know, good to see you smiling, and I suppose everything is going well.
Yes, everything is well. Thank you.
Now, from where you sit, on the back of what you do, when you look at how things are shaping out or shaping up for our political parties, the NDC and the NPP, the NDC came out with its timelines for the primaries. It's already started, from the grassroots levels. And now the NPP has also come out with its November 4 date for the presidential primaries. What do you make of it now that we have a clear pattern that we're going to follow? What does this mean in our political system for you?
Well, good morning. It goes to show you that 2023 is going to be an extremely busy year. That between now and the end of this year, our political parties, all the aspirants, their supporters, etc., would be engaged in quite a lot of activities as the months roll by. It will be interesting to see. Well, then again, I think that with the NDC flag bearership race, I've said this before and I'll say this again, that I think former President John Mahama is the presumptive nominee. I actually don't see anybody toppling him. But all of that will become very official once their primaries are over. One of the things that I would be looking for is once he becomes, assuming that my assumption plays out, once he becomes the official flag bearer of the party, I'll be interested to see how that shapes the NPP race, right? In terms of, would we start seeing conversations about which of the NPP aspirants will be best positioned to, quote unquote, defeat him or give him a run for his money come 2024. So that will be one of the key things that I'll be looking at as the NPP race heats up, and whether there'll be a lot of references to who the NDC has selected as their flag bearer for the presidential race. I also think that because of what we've seen in this 8th parliament with the closeness in the numbers, it will be very interesting to see how that impacts the parliamentary primaries in terms of who the vetting process, who is being vetted, who is being cleared. Because I think that one of the things that the two parties would definitely be keeping an eye out for in 2024 is not just winning parliament, but at least winning it by a comfortable enough majority, even if it's a 10-seat majority, because I don't think any of our parties would want to go through what they've experienced with this eighth parliament. So it'll be very interesting to see how the vetting process goes by, what sort of protections are offered or not offered to incumbents, non-incumbents, orphan constituencies, all of those dynamics. We would also have to watch out to see who would decide to go independent if they are not vetted and cleared to contest, and what would that mean? Because again, if you're going to if a potential candidate decides to go independent, what happens to that constituency? Does it split the party's vote and therefore give advantage to their political opponent? So these are some of the things that I would be looking for over the next several months as both parties gear up for their party primaries.
Now, is that to say that as far as the NDC is concerned, what do you think about their timelines, this time that they've chosen within the next few months, around May, for their own processes as far as the primaries are concerned? Do you think it is apt? Is it a bit too late? I know they are all, walking the tightrope as far as what their respective party constitutions say, and also getting things done early so that they can put forward their candidates on both the parliamentary and the presidential level. Do you feel that they are doing things early enough, or should they have started even before now?
I think the timing is right, in the sense that you don't want to do it too early, but you also don't want to do it too late. I think that a too early primary with candidates selected drags out the entire political season, right? So imagine if you have your candidates selected, say, January 2023, and elections are not until December 2024. Candidates can get wary, and so can voters get wary. So you want to make sure that there's, quote unquote, enough time to be able to market the candidates, to also get them fully engaged, that there's enough resources to also stretch over the campaign season. And I think that you want to avoid voter fatigue in terms of every day, every morning, every afternoon, candidates here, there, things like that. So I think that the timing is just about right. I mean, we are talking May. That still makes it 7 months, or was it maybe about 6 months for the rest of the year, plus almost another 11 months. So we're talking 17 months of political campaigning, which I think it's good enough time for both the party and the candidates. But you actually don't, I believe that you don't want to stretch out the campaign season far too long, because it can get tiring and because it can have that sort of fatiguing effect on voters. And then sometimes, depending on when voters make up their mind, the extra months spent campaigning actually gives you nothing, quote unquote, in terms of trying to change minds or securing votes, or makes no difference. For the first time, I think that was in 2016, Professor Usu Mensah from the Department of Political Science, Legon, in his pre-election survey, he did ask the question, how long ago did you make up your mind in terms of who you want to vote for? And when he released his results I think it was in September, October, majority of the respondents said they decided who they were going to vote for 6 months ago, right? Which means that if you run a much longer timeline in terms of your campaign, towards the end, the marginal utility effect is not much, because a lot of people are locked in very early, and it's only a few people who are up for grabs towards the end of the campaign season.
So interesting, demographics that you actually paint there. But so looking at the NDC and the NPP, you think the timing is right. But let's get to the candidates. You've already made mention of the fact that for the NDC, you feel maybe de facto is going to be former President Mahama. But in the NPP, yesterday we saw on social media some posts by the vice president that suggest that he is lacing his boots to contest for the flag bearership. We all know that some of the major contenders include Dr. Alache Martin, Dr. Baumia, and Ifriya Koto, among others, other popular names, Kennedy Ejapong, among others. But with the sort of wait and see that we're noticing, the former trade minister has already started his campaign. The former agric minister has already started his campaign. One of the front runners, the vice president, of course, his situation is a bit tricky. On the one end, he benefits from still being in government and being a face within the party. On the other end, he is not actively campaigning because he is not, launched out yet. Where do you think that leaves him? Is he getting left behind as far as the race is concerned?
I don't think he's getting left behind. As you described it accurately, he's in a bit of a sort of a tricky situation, right? He can't stick his neck out too early, but at the same time, he gets the benefit of he's in government, he's the sitting vice president, and therefore he still gets the publicity. I think sometime last week there was an event at the Nat Hall called I think it was
yes, those supporters of Baumia, I recall.
Precisely. So in as much as he's been quiet in the background, just going about his work as vice president, there are others who have been championing his cause and fueling, talk about his run and, getting people fully aware of the fact that, he's going to be a candidate for the flag bearership race. They probably know something that we don't know officially yet. So I don't think he's in a disadvantaged position because even though he's not speaking, at least he has quite a number of other people who are doing the groundwork and speaking for him. But I think we've gotten the hint from the post he made the other day with the two flags, one of the NPP, the other one, the Ghana flag, and just wrote it as possible. And what, for me, confirmed that it was a subtle sign that something, is going to come somewhere down along the line officially, was the fact that immediately, at least a lot of my NPP friends picked it up. So if you looked at their WhatsApp status, if you looked at their social media pages, they all shared it with the whole "it is possible" slogan. So I don't think he is in a disadvantaged position in relation to the others who are already officially campaigning, or at least have made it clear that they are interested in the flag bearership of the NPP.
Well, interesting times. Let me also bring in Professor Ransford Jampo. He is a political scientist and he is with the University of Ghana. Prof, a very good morning to you. Thank you for joining the conversation.
Morning.
Are you still in your holy village or are you back with us?
Well, I am in Ghana's political mecca, Saltpond, where it all began.
I see. Okay. So I know we're going to be talking about the Codeo charge and the CSOs and what they've been saying about those political appointees. But I'd be grateful if I could get your quick reaction to the two major political parties, NDC and NPP, and how their primaries are shaping up. When you look through your crystal ball or look at it, what do you see? Is the timing apt for them? The NDC sometime around May thereabouts, and the NPP on November 4th, at least for the presidential. What do you see? What is your reading?
Well, NDC, if it is May, it is good for them because it is better to be clear so that they can hit the ground running in terms of your campaigning and putting measures and arrangements in place just to help you achieve your ultimate ambition of power. And so for me, it is good for them. And NPP, I don't know why they have delayed even up till now. Several meetings were held by the echelons of the party, and these were always inconclusive as to when they want to commence their campaign in primaries, and also the events that would culminate in their selection of whoever leads them. I think they have delayed too much, but generally better late.
You think the NPP has delayed too much?
Yes. I think this thing should have been held much earlier, because, like you rightly said, I heard in someone's analysis, while some have commenced fully campaigning, at least for the presidential race, others are also unable to do so because of the position they hold in the current administration. And you don't want also a certain uneven playing field to be created for any of them or for all of them. So you would have thought that, you would have commenced a bit earlier, and then Dr. Baumia, for instance, would have known what he has to do. That, look, given that I'm also interested, maybe I may have to relax my own job and also hit the ground running, so that they would all be seen to be doing the same. But at the same time, you would also appreciate the fact that even though they have delayed, you may not want to, you may want to have a certain
he benefits from his position, though he's not started campaigning. Even without campaigning officially, he gets to play certain roles that put him out there, even right in the face of party delegates. So it's a lose-win situation, isn't it?
Well, I agree with you. That is a lose-win situation. But at the same time, even though he's not doing open, he's not been cleared to go all out. He is doing some of these things behind the scenes, and sometimes under the pretext of dealing with government business. One or two campaign maneuverings and gestures and overtures will take place. But I'm looking for a full-scale, full-blown campaign where all of them would have the platform and opportunity to go into full-scale campaigning. And if you recall, I've also called for a certain dialogue and debate amongst, all the aspirants. If the NPP is serious in deciding who must lead them in breaking the eight, that is, if they still believe in that cliche of breaking the eight, then they must ensure that who is elected, whoever they select to lead their flag bearership, or whoever they select to become their presidential candidate, must really be able to be the one who will lead them to break the eight. And one of the mechanisms that will help them in determining who must lead them, and one of the mechanisms that would help form the opinion of Ghanaians, or crystallize the opinion of Ghanaians beyond the NPP party in support of, will be for them to hold presidential or flag bearership, or flag bearer aspirant debates, so that we can see a healthy contest of ideas among them. Some of them are they were all, if you look at the aspirants, they were all in government. Okay, Vice President Baumia is a vice president. The other two, Alan Chemantin, Efri Yakutu, the leading ones have been in government. Of course, there are some who are also not in government but are interested. So let them meet, and then let those who are in government tell us what they did and why they think they can do things differently. and why they were not able to influence it in a manner that reflects what they stand for now. Let those who are still in government now tell us how they have been able to, what they have done about the current challenges in which we find ourselves, and then what can also be done better, and why we should give them the mandate. Let those who are not in government also come and expose what they think is wrong with the government and what they think they can do to help salvage the situation. So through this kind of healthy contest of ideas, I heard that they wanted to do a certain, put in a certain arrangement that would do, that would sieve the number of presidential aspirants, sieve the number to a very smaller number before then they hold the ultimate.
So they were saying that
yes.
if there were more than 5 contenders, and at least now for the main contenders, we're looking at 10. If there were more than 5, then they would have a special conference.
Yes, but how many are they now? Are they no more than 5?
The main ones are about 10.
The main ones. So the minor ones. If so, well, it means then they would have that special event to sieve the number down to, if you like, the 5. And I'm saying that for special events to sieve the number to 5, they must also have a certain presidential debate among their flag bearer, aspirants, so that we will be able to. It's not for the NPP alone, but for Ghanaians, and they must take wisdom. They must learn from the wisdom of others who have made the call that whoever they are selecting now, they should be mindful that the person must not only win their primaries or their selection process that will bring them the flag bearer. They should not only look at who will become the flag bearer, but they should look at who will become the president. And one of the means for ensuring that the processes would bring out who can win beyond the party and become president is through debate. So let them factor debate into their calendar and let there be a healthy contest of ideas among the aspirants with a view to ensuring that Ghanaians as a whole, whether partisan or non-partisan, whether party apparatchiks or neutrals or civil society, would all be able to make informed judgments as to who is better placed to lead their party and who can become who will be more affable and acceptable to Ghanaians as a potential president.
Right. I want us, with the rest of the time we have for this conversation now, to expand it and look at, yes, we're talking about these 2 juggernauts of political parties, the NPP in power, the NDC now in opposition. But the arbiter in the end, in 2024, December, is going to be the Electoral Commission. And there appears to be fire on the mountain once more. It's not just about the IPAC or matters that have come up. It's not just about the CI that is to be looked at by Parliament. But now it has to do with appointments to the Electoral Commission. The latest, we have Dr. Pia Hene, who is a known member of the NPP, and Hajia Tijani, another known member of the NPP. Both of them have been nominated, have taken up positions, courtesy of Mr. President, at the Electoral Commission. Now, the NDC started crying foul about it, saying these are clearly political affiliates that are being sent to the Electoral Commission. We now have Codeo joining the fray together with other CSOs. In fact, the representative who spoke for them yesterday, I'm talking about Professor Degbe, Dr. Fred Degbe, said, quote, "It is our considered and strongly held view and position that the appointment to the independent and non-partisan EC of persons who are known partisans or who have a partisan cloud over their heads is inconsistent with the spirit of the Constitution." I'll start with you, Dr. Kwapong, on this beat before I come back to Prof. What do you make of those appointments and, as is being pointed to, their political party affiliation? Should it be a problem? And finally, people are saying, like Codeo, they should resign willingly, because it is clear Mr. President will not, take them away from those positions. So they should look at their own conscience, examine their conscience, and resign. What do you make of that situation?
It's when you think of the Electoral Commission and the role that they play in our elections, they are designed to be the fair and impartial arbiter in our elections. I always refer to the EC as a referee, right? And therefore, as a referee in a football game, you expect independence, you expect a sense of fairness, a sense of equal treatment of all the parties involved in the game, right? Which means that voters, stakeholders, groups would always be very sensitive to who gets to be part of the officiating group of the match that we are about to be played, which is why I think it is always very important then to pay or at least to consider the extent to which the individuals being sent to such a sensitive institution have been openly partisan, right? I mean, yes, not everybody may show their partisan colors in the public space, although privately they may be very partisan, and you and I would never know. And therefore, when they are being appointed to a certain sensitive position, it will not raise the same level of concerns compared to one who is openly partisan. And the reason why that partisanship becomes a concern is that to what extent can you trust that should a matter come up that needs that fair and impartial arbitration, that the said individuals will be able to suspend their affiliation, their loyalty to their party, and raise loyalty to the institution as well as to the country above those partisan.
In other words, can these people look beyond their party affiliations, where likely their bread has been buttered? And you look at, Dr. Apia Hene, for example, at a point was being considered for minister for Bono, the Bono region. You look at all the surrounding circumstances and you ask yourself, can they do that, especially when the party they are affiliated to is in power? That's the question, isn't it?
Exactly. And that is at the crux of the matter. So I am one person that I try not to read too much motive into what goes on in people's heads, because you are not there. And you would want to give them the benefit of the doubt that in those critical moments, they will be able to do exactly what you and I have just described, which is rise above party and place the institution as well as the country first. It is also not good for the EC at this moment, because they are in a situation where trust in the Electoral Commission is at a historic low based on the most recent Afrobarometer survey, right? Only 10% say they trust the EC a lot. I think that sometimes appointing authorities should pay attention to some of these things, right? So you don't further exacerbate some of these trust issues that a given institution is already facing. But at the end of the day, for me, right, I just really, because you can't undo it, and because I don't see them also tending in their resignation to these positions that they've been appointed to, one can only hope that two things would happen, right? One, that they will be able to rise above partisanship in the course of their duty. But two, this is where other key groups like your CSOs, other political parties would have to be extra vigilant. I think those are the options now, or these are the only tools that can be used to ensure that none of that, concerns that individuals have would come to pass. Because the two other options of the resignation or the president undoing the appointments, I don't believe it's going to happen.
So, do you feel they should resign based on what people are calling them to do? Should they resign? For the sake of election 2024, would you suggest they resign?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure I would. I think for me, their actions or inactions should what that is what they should focus on in ensuring or giving the assurance to Ghanaians that they will be able to maintain that impartiality come 2024.
Let me bring in Prof. as well. Just to add, on the other front, I've mentioned Dr. Apiahene. How about Hajia Tijani? So she is said to be married, according to Dr. Degbe, to one Sheikh T.B. Damba, a leading member of the NPP who was formerly the second national vice chairperson of the party and served as Ghana's ambassador to Saudi Arabia from 2017 to 2021. Hajia Tijani's mother, Hajia Samata Gifty Bukari, was the first elected woman first vice chairperson of the NPP in the northern region. To add to that, her sister, Hajia Shani Mahama Zakaria, who is currently the CEO of the Microfinance and Small Loans Center, contested the 2020 NPP primary in Yendi. So the ties are there. But do these ties make it impossible for the likes of Hajia Tijani and Dr. Apiahene to be in the positions they find themselves currently? What do you think, Prof?
For the lady involved, I mean, let us be clear, let us be fair, let us be objective in looking at this. It is only a few of us in Ghana who do not belong to political parties. And yet we are prepared to serve our country in whatever capacity that we find ourselves. But generally, everybody belongs to one party or the other. And so people belonging to a political party and having their parents belonging to a political party, in my view, should not cancel or invalidate or prevent them from being made or being given any appointment. I mean, if you expand the frontiers of that argument, then you are getting into the realm of absurdity. Every Ghanaian, apart from a few, those of us who do not belong to any of the political parties, we are few. But people, we are generally NDC or NPP. And so for me, it shouldn't matter. But what must matter is when the person is known to have demonstrated partisanship. Please take note of this. There is difference between doing politics and doing partisan politics. Now, Aristotle argues that man is by nature a political animal. If you strip politics from man, he becomes something else, not a human being. And so naturally, men are political people. Okay? If you come to the classroom, I will teach you what it means to do politics. But generally, politics is ubiquitous, and the ubiquity of politics is such that you cannot divorce it from the activities of men. Every man born under the sun, every man born of a woman is naturally a political animal. But when Max Weber says that public servants and people who occupy the positions of fiduciary trust or public servants generally should abstain from partisan politics, all that he's saying is that I'm not saying don't vote, I'm not saying don't do politics, but what he's saying is that you should not be seen to have openly identified yourself with one political party. You should not be seen to have spoken openly in favor of, as in campaigning for or campaigning against one political party. You should not be seen at party rallies supporting the cause of a political party. You should not be seen to have worn a party T-shirt or be wearing party T-shirts, party boots, party trousers, party caps, or you should not be seen to have adorned yourself in any party paraphernalia in the conduct of your regular activities.
Well,
Now, if you do
because we have limited time, we have about 3 minutes to go. But I just want to find out when you look at
you let me develop the argument.
No, I just have to intervene here, just briefly, Prof. Please bear with me. When you look at the two candidates, the two people who are at the EC, is any of them in that category you speak of?
Well, I think I've seen several videos of one of them. I think
Dr. Apiahene.
Yes, and openly campaigning and spewing propaganda in support of the current party, and that makes him a partisan person. Okay, so because that side of him is very much known, then it becomes difficult for you to appoint that same person into the position of an independent arbiter. It becomes very difficult, and you see, one of the palpable manifestations of lunatic soft politics is the manner in which the extensive powers of the executive president has oftentimes been exercised. Several times, this is exercised in a manner that benefits party cronies without recourse to meritocracy. Initially, the president, Akufo-Addo, gave us a clear hope that he wasn't going to fall for this quagmire when he first appointed Mr. Martin Amidu as a special prosecutor. And everybody applauded him that, look at the president. He's looked at somebody who merits this particular appointment and has given to him. But it appears that what Lord Acton said, that power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely, is having a bigger toll on the president. Now, because of power, it appears that he is not taking so many things into consideration in determining who...
So you feel power has corrupted the president?
Say again.
So you feel power has corrupted the president? Has he become power drunk?
Yes, because if that is not the case, in determining who must go and work at the Electoral Commission, you must first of all look at meritocracy. See, I worked with Mensa for 14 years, and within that 14 years, we worked on a program called the Ghana Political Parties Program, a program that brings together the leadership of the then four main political parties representation in Parliament to meet once every month at the IEA Secretariat to discuss issues of national importance in an apolitical manner. And so when G. Mensa was appointed the chair of the Electoral Commission, if you recall, I was the only person who went throughout the whole country, Ghana, to support and to applaud the president for such an appointment. Why? Because she had demonstrated a decade or over a decade of track record of having dealt with political parties. Okay, so what is the track record of these other people within the area of election management that warranted their appointment there? And then we teach how to make institutions independent. One of the mechanisms to ensure that institutions are independent is to look at the way their appointments into them is made. There are several things that you have to do to check their backgrounds to ensure that when they are selected into that institution, they will truly help to extol the virtues of independence of that institution. But if you don't look at their backgrounds and you appoint a partisan person to go and serve as an independent arbiter, then it means you are contributing to the legitimacy deficit and the lack of public trust of that institution. And what really worried me was even the attempt on the part of the president to defend this. You remember, if you listen to him carefully, what he said was that election is about those who vote and not those who count. And I'm saying that, Mr. President, with the greatest of respect, I beg to differ. If it is not about those who count, then what becomes of my vote if the counter is mad? What becomes of my vote if there are no people who will count objectively? Your vote will mean nothing if the counters are biased, if the counters are corrupt, if the counters are mad, if the counters do not exist. And so those who count are as important as those who vote in any democratic, practice.
So we have to go, Prof. But just we have to go. But just to get this, so for you, for Hajia Tijani, because these are both professionals as well, If you look at the profile of Dr. Apiahene, he's a lecturer at the University of Energy and Natural Resources. If you look at Hajia Tijani, she works with the Agricultural Development Bank. She holds a Bachelor of Arts degree. She holds an MBA, and now she's a Master of Science student in finance. So for you, do you think Hajia Tijani, regardless of all the surrounding circumstances, should stay? But because Dr. Apiahene has put himself in that position, he should resign?
I gave two. No, the caveats are two. Number one, they don't have the record and they don't merit this particular appointment because they have
both of them. Please just clarify. Both of them don't merit. Is that what you're saying?
They don't merit it because they have no track record in that area. Secondly, Apiahene is very partisan. I have no serious record of seeing the other lady involving himself in activities that we can describe as partisan.
Right. That's a very interesting way to end the conversation. Gentlemen, we're very grateful that you've taken the time to join us. Prof, it's good catching up with you again. And
Dr.
Papong, it's been a while. It's been refreshing catching up with you. Those last words there. So, according to Professor Jampo, they don't merit the appointments. Looking at their track record, they do not merit the appointments. But even more forcefully for Dr. Apiahene, because he's put himself in a partisan role, he shouldn't even be there. And something else that Professor Jampo also made mention of, the fact that, yes, when it came to, at a certain point, the president was not being so political, in terms of appointing, for example, special prosecutor. The very first one, Martin Alamisi Burns Kaiser Amidou. But now, with these appointments, he feels, using Lord Acton's aphorism, power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely, that the president has been corrupted by power. And, that is why these appointments have been made. Very interesting discussion we've had. Now, stay with us. When we return from the break, we'll move away from politics and talk about rent-related issues. Now, if you've ever tried renting a place by going online, you might want to take caution. There are some fraudsters online and in other places. They will come across as agents, but trust you me, they are not that. And if you part with any money to them, next thing you know, they bolt with your money. You go to the property and find out that, they were not agents, they were not owners, and people have lost as much as 30,000 Ghana cedis. That conversation is up next on the AM Show.